The moment her trembling fingers wrapped around my wrist, I knew something was wrong. Please. Pretend to kiss me. He's watching, she whispered, voice cracking like glass under pressure. My heart jumped, but not from fear, because this was Maya, the woman who never asked anyone for help. I leaned in, gently cupping her cheeks as if this had always been natural between us. Everything okay, my love? I asked loudly enough for whoever was watching to hear. But inside, something in me quietly shattered. Why did she look so afraid? And why did it hurt that this was just pretend? The story begins on an evening when the city's lights flickered against the rain-soaked streets. I had just finished my shift at the cafe where I worked, trying to keep my head down and my heart quieter. Maya, my coworker and maybe the one person who understood the strange silence in my life, had texted me to meet her outside the old bookstore. I thought she wanted to borrow my notes again. I didn't expect her to rush toward me, breathless, eyes wide, as if shadows had followed her. When I pulled away from the pretend kiss, she exhaled shakily. Her hands were still on my chest like she was anchoring herself. I'm sorry, she murmured, avoiding my eyes. I needed a way out. I didn't push her, I never did. Do you want to talk? I asked softly. She hesitated, then nodded. We walked under the bookstore's awning while the rain thickened. She rubbed her arms as if fighting ghosts. My ex, she whispered. He doesn't let things go. He's been following me for weeks. Tonight, he cornered me again. Her voice trembled at the edges. I saw him coming toward me, and I panicked. You were the only person nearby. Her words tightened something inside me. I had always known Maya as brave, sharp-tongued, steady, unbreakable. But now her strength was cracked open, and through that crack, a painful truth leaked out. Someone had made her this scared that I wanted to storm toward the street and confront him. But all I said was, I'm here. Whatever you need. Her eyes softened. Thank you, more than you know. We walked for a while, letting the rain rinse away some of the fear. When we reached her apartment building, she lingered. Can you stay for a bit? Just until I feel okay again? So I did. We sat on her small couch, the dim lamp painting shadows around us. She talked slowly at first, then like a river breaking open. She told me about the relationship she hid from everyone, the one she pretended was fine, the one that was slowly crushing her. I listened, my hands cold with anger but my voice steady. You didn't deserve any of that, I said. She looked up, eyes glistening. You make things sound easy. No, I replied. I just see you clearly. Maybe he never did. Silence settled, warm and fragile. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I didn't move. For the first time, I realized the truth I had buried long ago. Maya meant more to me than she would ever know, but that night ended with uncertainty. And the next morning, everything changed. In the following days, she stuck close to me at work. Sometimes she smiled at me, a little too long. Sometimes she reached for my hand when her ex appeared nearby. It was all pretend, but each time she said my love or leaned close, something in me twisted painfully. Then one night, after closing the cafe, she walked beside me with her hands shoved deep into her coat pockets. I think he's getting worse, she whispered. He left a note on my door. Fear spilled into her voice. I stopped walking. Let me help, I said firmly. This isn't your battle alone. Her eyes searched mine, like she wanted to believe me but didn't know how. Why are you always like this? She whispered. Why do you care so much? Because I love you, I wanted to say. But instead, because you deserve someone who does. The turning point came 2 nights later. Her ex confronted us outside the cafe. Maya froze behind me, and for the first time, I stepped in front of her, not out of fear, but certainty. When the ex scoffed, spitting out threats, I said calmly, she's not alone. Not anymore. Something flickered in the man's eyes, a recognition that he'd lost control. He backed off, but the storm he left behind remained in Maya's trembling breath. That night, she didn't ask. She simply walked into my arms and stayed there. I held her until she stopped shaking, but healing wasn't instant. It rarely is. Unfolded slowly like a sunrise, painful, gentle, inevitable. Maya began trusting herself again, piece by fragile piece. She started laughing more, leaning on me less out of fear and more out of choice. And somewhere in the quiet spaces between us, between late-night conversations and shared coffees, something changed. One evening, as we sat at the tiny table in my apartment, she stared at me longer than usual. "Do you remember the night I asked you to pretend?" she asked. I nodded. She took a deep breath. "I wasn't pretending toward the end." "Not really." My heart stumbled. "Maya, I didn't know how to tell you," she whispered. "You were my safe place before I even realized it." I reached across the table, brushing my fingers against hers. "You don't have to pretend anymore." Her eyes softened the way they did the first night she clung to me. Slowly, she stood, walked toward me, and cupped my face the same way I had cupped hers. "Everything okay, my love?" she whispered teasingly. This time, I kissed her, not because anyone was watching, not because she needed protection, but because we both wanted it. Weeks later, Maya reported her ex with the help of a counselor and the evidence she had saved. It wasn't easy. There were days she cried, days she doubted herself, days she hid in the break room just to breathe. But I was there. Every step. Not rescuing her, just holding the flashlight while she walked her own path out of the dark. And when she finally said, "I'm free," she didn't say it like someone who had escaped. She said it like someone who had reclaimed her life. Our relationship didn't start with romance. It started with fear, with a pretend kiss meant to shield her. But it grew into something steady, something safe, something real. By the time we stood together on the rooftop months later, watching the city lights she once feared walking alone, she slipped her hand into mine and whispered, "Thank you for staying." I squeezed her hand gently. "You don't thank people who love you," I said quietly. She leaned her head on my shoulder, the same way she had on that rainy night, and whispered back, "That I guess I'll just love you too." And there, under the quiet glow of a city that had once felt dangerous, we stood, two people who began as a shield and a refuge, and ended as partners who chose each other long after the pretending stopped. A story born from fear ended in freedom. A kiss meant to protect became the one that changed everything, and in the end, the only person left watching was the one who mattered.